Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review, live. That's right, everybody. How are you doing? Good morning. Welcome to the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them. And we're doing it live here on Wednesday morning, new comic book day. Yesterday was just a very long day, but here we are. Hope you can see me. Hope you can hear me. And we always start with the pick of the week. And this week's pick of the week, The Seasons Have Teeth, issue number 1. So this is a new one from Boom Studios. It's a new one from Dan Watters. Dan Watters is a fantastic writer. He's done work like Deep Roots, the recent Arkham City Order of the World, the Azrael, Sword of Azrael book. Absolutely a fantastic writer. Homesick Pilots, Limbo, Lucifer, the list goes on and on and on. So when Dan's name is on a book, I pay attention. And when Boom releases a new number 1, we all pay attention. Y'all, this book was freaking phenomenal. It's got artwork by Sebastian Cabral, coloring by Dan Jackson, lettering by Nate Picos. And what this is, the basic premise is this. Imagine if at the coming of every new season, there was a monster that went along with it. And this is about like an older guy who looks like the love of his life has passed away recently. And when everybody evacuates this town because the spring monster is coming, he winds up staying behind to get the photo. But there's also a lot of stuff about his relationship. I loved it. I love the human story in here. I love the thematic relevance in here of the spring, of the changing of seasons, of the monstrous nature of change. I had so much fun with this book. I thought it was an incredibly high concept, incredibly well executed, great art, great writing, absolutely phenomenal. That is the pick of the week. The Seasons Have Teeth, and Dan Watters will be on the show here on Pop Culture Philosophers Sunday at 1 p.m. Central Time. We'll get to chat with him about that, his upcoming work like Loki, and other work that he's done before. It's going to be a great show. From Marvel Comics, we've got Guardians of the Galaxy issue number 1. That is a really cool cover. Honestly, that's a really dope cover, and it's got that Star Wars Serenity kind of vibe, and that's what they're going for here. So this is written by, is it Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing? Sometimes I get those mixed up. Yeah, Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing. Kev Walker on the artwork. Look, there's a good like animal butt for you. But the artwork is pretty solid. I'm not usually the biggest fan of Kev Walker's artwork, but it actually works for me in this book. It does have a decidedly Western flair to it, more than we're used to with Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. But Kelly and Lansing actually did a pretty good job here on the first issue, setting up something interesting. There's something called Groot Fall coming. What is that? You get a little bit of that going on here. This is one of those books, too, that starts with a space of time having passed, and you're like, what happened to the Guardians? And then they start trying to catch you up on that. So there's a lot of holes to be filled, but it was still a very exciting book. I enjoyed it. The only thing I didn't really like about it is I don't always like it when they try to reflect the movies too much into the comic books, and the Mantis... The comic book version of Mantis is incredibly different than the movie version, and they're leaning really heavily into the movie version, which I love the movie Mantis, but that's not the comic Mantis, and that's interesting. Speaking of Lansing and Kelly, we also got Captain America Cold War Alpha. This is a one-shot kicking off the Captain America-centric mini event, right? This is going to be going through the pages of Sentinel of Liberty and Symbol of Truth. I dipped out of those books. The whole idea that Captain America was originally created as part of this organization, and the shield is actually a representation of that organization. There's an element of coolness to that, but for the most part, it just comes across as wonky. So I dropped out of those books. I decided I'd read this, see what happened. It was enjoyable enough. It was all right. It filled you in on everything, but there's some real big leaps. Bucky's a bad guy now. He's like pulling a Ben Reilly. He's Bucky Chasm or something like that. I don't know. It didn't really fully work for me, and it didn't sell me on coming back into the Captain America books to follow this event. So it's one that was interesting enough, but it didn't necessarily encourage me. So out of their works today, I would recommend Guardians of the Galaxy, but the Captain America Cold War, only if you've been hardcore following that run would I recommend that. Then we got Carnage here with issue number 12. Alex Packnadell's writing Carnage now, coming off of the heels of his friend Ram V. you know, y'all know me. I was up and down on the Rom V run, but by the end of it, by issue 10, it all came to fruition, and I was like, holy cow. And now Alex has come in and added so much more of a visceral rawness to the book and insanity, and not in like so many Carnage books are just like, I'm Carnage, blah, 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 and it gets kind of goofy and silly. This one's downright scary, and I really, really appreciate it. There is death. There are interesting things going on. You got Cletus Cassidy and you got Carnage now, two different entities at war with each other. Carnage, the symbiote, has gathered all of these like cosmic powers. He's building up to something big, and Alex is able to take that tension, apply a little bit of visceralness to it, and crank it up to 11, because that's issue, actually, to 12, because this is issue 12 of Carnage. Loved that book. Then we got Miles Morales Spider-Man. Y'all, this is how you do a Spider-Man book. This is how you do a Spider-Man book. You make it captivating. You make it dramatic. You make it enthralling. And you make it dynamic as F. Like 100%. The artwork in this book is phenomenal. This is one of the best illustrated Marvel comics on the shelves right now. Big, explosive, bombastic moments anchored by the weight of the story, the weight of the characters. It feels like there are high stakes. Even characters that should be safe, you feel like they're not necessarily safe. You give into the illusion of change. And when a comic book can do that, a monthly superhero comic book, that's fantastic. Cody Ziegler's been doing a great job writing this, but it is Federico Vincentini who is the absolute star for me. Just amazing artwork. Kinetic, flies off the page, super sharp. Then we've got Moon Knight. Moon Knight number 22. This is an alright issue of Moon Knight. It was okay. It was not the best issue of Moon Knight. It's very Tigress specific, and it adds a new layer of depth and dimension to the relationship between Spectre and Tigra. And it was interesting enough, but it was kind of predictable. It kind of plodded along a little bit, and it didn't have that flair that a lot of recent issues of Moon Knight had. Cappuccio is still listed as the artist, but it just doesn't quite seem to have... Something seems to be missing in it. But like I said, it's very Tiger specific, and Tiger's a cool character, but I like that badass Moon Knight. But it was still interesting. It was decent enough. Then we got Fantastic Four, issue number 6. Ryan North's doing a decent job on Fantastic Four. He's doing these like self-contained, one-and-done, one-shot stories that are part of a larger narrative. And this one had some interesting things, but it also has some weird leaps, okay? So there's this like deadly bacteria that's like overtaking a pond. It's going to kill everybody on Earth in like 3 days or something. So the Fantastic Four don't know what to do. And then Johnny's like, I don't want to spoil the book, so I'm just going to stop there. But I will say this. Their resolution is the dumbest damn thing, and the way everybody reacts to it. It's one of these, it's one of those books where we're forcing situations and characters to fit where Ryan North wants to go. He wants the Fantastic Four to be kind of ostracized from society. So he has them doing things that they do all the time that everybody else is always cool with, but all of a sudden it's not cool. But the way that they handle this, there's a lot of scientific fallacies, I think, in this book. Now, I'm not reading comic books to be factually, scientifically correct, but it was a little wonky. That being said, too, the artwork on this book did not do much for me, and I do not like the coloring in Fantastic Four. I get that they're trying to go for that bright, kind of vibrant style, but it's not really working for me as far as the coloring goes, and it feels very like early 2000s or something. So I don't know. Fantastic Four has been waning a little bit. Over at DC, we got Sandman, Universe, Nightmare Country, The Glass House. This was awesome. This is awesome. So James Tynion IV, Lysandro Estherren, they are back with their Corinthian-centric story. I loved the first Nightmare Country. And then when the whole final issue was all like set up for like Dead Boy Detectives or something, I was so confused, so let down. Very happy that it's back. The artwork in this book is absolutely phenomenal. I can't show you that page. Hell Orgy. Can't show the Hell Orgies. The coloring, the artwork, the depth to it, the shading, everything about it really works for me. And I liked it. We get introduced to a new character who's going to come up against the Corinthian at some point. They tie it back in towards the end, but if you liked the first series, there's no reason why you're not going to like that one. Then we got Superman Lost, issue number 2. Christopher Priest doing a 12-issue, 10-issue Superman story. The first issue didn't work for me because the basic premise is this. In a battle with the Justice League, Superman gets sucked into a singularity, flung into the distant reaches of the universe. He shows back up. Little time has passed. Lois is just super mad and angry at Batman and blaming him. And I didn't get it. I didn't feel that. I didn't understand like why that seemed like it was supposed to be such a big deal or anything like that. However, issue 2 adds elements to it that does make it make a bit more sense. Superman has been dealing with something that's kind of affected him, and Lois is picking up on that. So this one clears up some of the confusion and wonkiness of the first one, but then it also kind of misbalances that with some kind of kooky adventure aspects of it, which were fun, which were interesting. I enjoyed the book, but it's got a tonal balance that it's not quite managed to make work, if that makes sense. Then we got Batman Incorporated, issue number 7. Y'all, has Batman Incorporated become one of DC's best books, like slyly, like right under the covers? Like 100%. Batman Incorporated has energy. Batman Incorporated has a wide cast of characters, and Ed Brisson, the writer, is able to balance it. It's not just a Ghostmaker book, which I thought it would be. It's not just a Ghostmaker book, but there is incredible stuff being done with Ghostmaker here. Like, there's a bit at the end with Ghostmaker just pissed that I love. But I also love the utilization of Professor Pig, a lot of other Grant Morrison ideas, including the Batman Incorporated stuff. But it's able to balance all of these characters, make it feel weighty and high stakes with dynamic artwork and a really solid story. This book is one of DC's best. Absolutely. Then we got Danger Street here with issue number 5. Yes, issue number 5 of Danger Street. Why are they not? Book 5 is real big right there on the car. All right, book 5 of Danger Street. This one's all right. So Danger Street's been kind of up and down. I enjoyed the first issue enough. The second issue, not so much. 3 and 4, I really did like. 5, kind of plodded along, felt a little dull and a little boring, but by the end of it, it did hook me back in to continue to read this story. Tom King does way better, I think, when he does miniseries with like C and D list characters. And that's kind of what's going on here. There's a little bit of New Gods action as well. But overall, I'm still liking it. But that one was a little bit of a duller issue, I'll tell you that. Then we got Wildcats issue number 6. I believed this was the final issue, but there's going to be more Wildcats. And Matthew Rosenberg, the writer, is starting to bring a little bit more into the picture, a little bit more clarity, you may say, about what this iteration of Wildcats is all about. But it still feels like we're 6 issues in, and the book hasn't established any kind of firm identity for itself. It hasn't really utilized the characters in the proper, in the fullest way. It hasn't really carved out its unique identity and what separates it out from everything else. It seems like it's spending a lot of time just trying to build this up and make it fit in the DC universe. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. Wildstorm always feels forced into the DC universe. It just does not ever click for me. The Wildcats and Stormwatch and the Authority, it just doesn't work for me in the DC universe. I would really appreciate this just being on its own, being able to do the Wildcats thing, and that's kind of its fault there. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Usagi Yojimbo, Wherewhen. Y'all, this is Stan Sakai, one of the greatest cartoonists in comic book history. We always like to talk about people like Dave Sim or Todd McFarlane who've done all these issues and all this, and, you know, oh, they've been doing this book for so long. Stan Sakai's been doing Usagi Yojimbo consistently, for so long consecutively, and now here he is with another Turtles crossover. So, you got Stan Sakai doing the Turtles, crossing over with Usagi Yojimbo. There is Usagi, I got the Eastman cover here, but there's also a Stan Sakai cover. I am a huge fan of Stan Sakai. I got to meet him in 2019. Super cool dude. I love Usagi Yojimbo. So this was definitely a pleasure and a treat. And if you've never read a Usagi comic, this is a great chance. It's a great chance to just pick it up and be like, what is Stan Sakai all about? This is a cartoonist who's been doing what he does for years and years and years, and he's never let up. He's always been consistent. You always know what you're going to get. A really refreshing story, tightly paced, excellently rendered, and you even got the turtles in there. So come on. If you've never read Usagi, Now is your time. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Usagi Yojimbo. Then we got All Against All, issue number 5. This is the final issue from writer Alex Packnadel and artist Casper Wingard and letterer Aditya Bit. Nope, it's Hassan Otsmanelhow. Sorry. Man, this was a great finale. The artwork in the book has a rawness to it, has an edge to it, a texture that we've talked about before we had Alex on the show. It is brutal. It's not just brutal in the physical violence, but it's brutal in the emotional and mental anguish that I am going through reading this book. And like, nothing is safe, nothing is sacred, but this was a really powerful story to me about nature and nurture versus reality and hubris, right? I had so much fun with this book. I think it's one of the best things that Packnadel's done. It's some of the best art I've ever seen from Wingard, and I think Casper is a phenomenal artist. He also has Ewoks out this week. I skipped out on Ewoks. I didn't know Casper drew it. If I would have known that, I would have read Ewoks, so I'm probably going to read Ewoks. That being said, All Against All completely nailed the ending. Then we got, speaking of endings, 8 Billion Genies, issue number 8. This is the final issue of 8 Billion Genies, a book that I've been incredibly fascinated with. Very impressed. This book has won me over multiple times because the structure has been one of my favorite things. So it's a world with 8 billion people. All of a sudden, everybody gets a genie. Everybody gets a wish. What does everybody wish for? It results into insanity. But the story develops so much further out of that. And the last issue felt like it was a solid ending. Like, where are we going to go from here? And now, the structure. So the first book is like what? The first 8 seconds, then the first 8 minutes, and the first 8 hours, and the first 8 days, and the first 8 weeks. Now we're in centuries, but this book goes back to explain things that happened before G-Day, which is what they call Genie Day or whatever. So this book is very exposition heavy. It felt clunky to do it that way at the end, but I don't know how you would have threaded this throughout that story and maintained that same structural integrity. That being said, I love the idea here, but I was just a little let down by the ending because I thought that this ending could have kind of been done in like 5 or 6 pages at the end of issue 7, but then you wouldn't have the whole 8 and 8 and 8 thing. So it was all right. I loved this book. The ending is strong, but it's just weird for the entire last issue to be a big exposition dump about what really happened. I don't know. So that was still on the fence with that one. Phantom Road, issue number 2. I loved Phantom Road, issue number 1. Phantom Road number 2 was even better because you get a little bit more into what is actually happening, right? So basically there's a trucker. He's picked up this woman who's survived an accident, and they wind up in this Phantom Road, this place in between realities, the above and the below or something like that, right? And these are ideas that Jeff Lemire likes to play with. Gabriel Hernandez Walta's artwork is great. It's got a texture to it that really adds this melancholical feel that a lot of Jeff Lemire books actually kind of feel. But you get a little bit of explanation on what's kind of happening, but it's still left vague enough that there's a mystery attached to it to entice you to come back for more issues. I'm loving Phantom Road. It's Jeff Lemire. Speaking of Jeff Lemire, let me go ahead and grab this one. It's Little Monsters, issue number 12, the penultimate issue of Little Monsters. This is about a group of kids who are vampires. They were lied to about the nature of their vampirism, and it has split the group in two. All of the drama has reached a major point here, and now Jeff Lemire's like, okay, all the setup is done. Let's end this thing. Bang, 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 bang. And that's what's going on. I love this book. Dustin Nguyen's artwork, freaking phenomenal, using like a digital duotone type thing that works so well, that gives this book an identity outside of your typical Dustin Nguyen stuff, which ain't bad to begin with. So Little Monsters has been very impressive. Then we got Giant Kokju. This is a silly book. It's Jerry Duggan, and it's Jerry Duggan, the great. I can't show you too. Okay, I can show you this page. So this book, it's Jerry Duggan and Koblish. It's just a silly book. That was kind of fun. It's gnarly. It's got some violence. So what is it about? It's about this kaiju, this giant monster that shows up. He's got a giant sexual organ, and he's not just trying to destroy the planet. He's trying to mate with the planet. It is ridiculous. It is absurd. It is comical. you got to go into this book expecting that. Don't expect high art or high concept sci-fi here. This is just, it's the giant Kokju. It's a kaiju with a giant sexual organ trying to F the world. That was a trip. Then we got Dark Ride, issue number 5. Yes, issue number 5 of Dark Ride, the Josh Williamson book about the evil version of Disney. What if Disney was horror themed, right? So there's lots of stuff going on behind the scenes with the family. There's mystery about what's actually going on. This mystery gets richened in here by Josh Williamson because he explains some stuff, but he explains just enough and reveals just enough to have us very much salivating for more. I really do like this book. I think it's so fun, and I like the revelations here. And talking with Josh Williamson a couple weeks ago in Orlando, he's got a lot of passion for this book, and it comes through. Then we got Chroma, issue number 4. This is the final issue of Chroma, and it was a really solid ending. The artwork is amazing. It's Lorenzo De Felici, and he is the writer as well. It's a world devoid of color because they're scared of the attention from the predators that colors reveal. So this is a civilization based on a lie. This one woman has found out about the lie, and man, it gets pretty gnarly there at the end. It erupts into a violent, climatic situation that worked so well for me. The artwork in Chroma has been brilliant, and for the most part, it was the selling point. But the story and the way that story ended and the impact that story ended with its effect on the world and the characters worked so much for me. Then we got Nemesis Reloaded, issue number 4. This book's all right. It's fun. It's decent enough. It's like a reboot of Nemesis. Nemesis is basically the son of Bonnie and Clyde, if you will, right? And in the last issue, there was a big revelation about his origins and why he's doing what he's doing, which is turning the city against the police force and trying to take out a very specific group of police. And now he's after the mayor, and that's what goes on here. The artwork by Jorge Jimenez is just, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's violent. It's briskly paced. The artwork is super solid. I have so much fun with this book. It's not going to change your life. It's not the deepest thing out there, but it's solid. Then we have The Ambassadors, issue number 2. Issue number 1 had Frank Quitely artwork. Loved the artwork, but I just wasn't quite sold on the story. The idea is this. There's a corporation that's developed a way to give people superpowers. It's going to pick 6 people from around the world to give superpowers to. And in this one, it's a dude from India. We get to see his story, his development. At the same time, they're building up other ideas that are going to flourish. Now, there's a different artist in each issue. So Carl Kerschel, solid artist, but difficult to follow up Frank Quitely. But I really did like this book. I thought issue 2 improved on issue number 1 by taking the focus back into just one person, one character, having their lives changed by becoming a superhero. And a lot of Millerisms in here, but they work for me. Then we got Spawn. Spawn here with issue 340. And this is the 4th out of 4 covers from my boy Mark Spears. By the way, cover of the week. Cover of the week is the Fantastic Four, Guardians of the Galaxy Timeless variant. It's the Doctor Doom one. Alex Ross doing Doctor Doom, automatically cover of the week. Smell of the week is Seasons of the Teeth as well. But Spawn, this is one of those issues of Spawn that it's all right. I kind of got lost again. I was like, wait, who's that again? Why are we doing this? Every once in a while, you get one of these issues of Spawn where you're just like, huh? But that just means that right around the corner is going to be another issue of Spawn that's going to make it all kind of connect again, right? With 4 Spawn books going on, 4 that are very enjoyable, more so with between King Spawn, Spawn, and Scorched, some of the characters and some of the plot lines are getting a little blurred. And I'm like, okay, I need to step back, maybe just do a quick reread of like King Spawn 1 through whatever, and then Spawn over the last year or so. So this one, it was all right. It was decent, but it didn't have the power or the impact as some of the more recent issues of the Spawn family. Then we got Exorcists Never Die, issue number 1. It's a new one from Mad Cave Studios. Steve Orlando, Sebastian Perez, I believe. Yeah, Sebastian Perez. Artwork's fine. Story's okay. It's about these 2 combat exorcists. They kind of hate each other. That's basically the whole vibe of the book. Like, they're fighting demons, they're combat exorcists. That's cool. It's cool in concept, but it just didn't work in execution because it just felt like the book needed a little bit more to it. And when you get to the end, I'm like, is that what's supposed to bring me in? So it was all right. It was all right, but it didn't really sell me hard. Then we got Clear, issue number 2. Artwork in this book is amazing. Francis Manipool is absolutely one of the best. The coloring in this book is phenomenal. And the concept is too. This is like a cyberpunk, futuristic, neo-noir type thing, detective story. It's a world in which everybody has like, what do they call them? Veils. They call them veils, where everybody's hooked in to technology and they're able to like veil the world. So if you want to see the world like a black and white noir movie, boom, there it is. If you want to see the world like an animated Disney cartoon, boom, there it is. So it's about perception and it's about all these kind of different things. And there's lots of twists and turns in this dude's journey and trying to figure out what's actually going on in this mystery, because it is about perspective. It's about what you can see and how what you think you see may not always be the truth. Clear's pretty solid though. Very heavy to read though. Very like, it's like double-sized. Scott Snyder, super explainy. Artwork, super dynamic, though. Then we got Barbaric, Hell to Pay, issue number 3. I'm still liking this series. It's got a great sense of bouncy fun to it. Its irreverency is something that I find appealing, but I enjoy it. Owen the Barbarian's been in hell. His friends are out there, so you got both stories going on. This was a big action-heavy issue, and the juxtaposition of those two scenes really worked for me. I enjoyed this book. I enjoyed it a lot. I love Nathan Gooden's artwork. It is, like I said, it is viciously violent, but in a very fun and grounded kind of way. Anyway, I like it. It's got a sense of humor and irreverency that I love coming from Michael Morisi. Then we've got Traveling to Mars, issue number 5. Yes, issue number 5. This feels like it's the penultimate issue. I don't know exactly how long this is going, but Mark Russell is doing a great job with this book. What it is a corporation wants to put a human on Mars so that they can claim Mars for this corporation. But it's a one-way mission. It's a suicide mission, so they got to find someone who has no attachments whatsoever. So they find this loser, right? But on his way to Mars, because the whole book, like it says, Traveling to Mars, the whole book is just introspection. But it works. It's all narrative, introspective stuff, and it works. And it's kind of sad, but at the same time, it's inspiring and optimistic, because sometimes in examining a life and examining regrets about that life, you find the bits of life that make life worth living. Does that make sense? Anyway, so that's what I read. That's what I thought about it. To recap, Traveling to Mars has been fantastic. Barbaric, I'm having a lot of fun with it. Clear, great artwork, cool story, very verbose. Exorcists Never Die just didn't do it for me. Spawn was one of those confusing issues where I kind of forgot who's who and what's what. Ambassadors and Nemesis Reloaded, 2 fun ones from Mark Miller. Chroma has a fantastic ending. Dark Ride is back, and I'm still enjoying that one. Then we got Giant Kokju. You get what you pay for there. Little Monsters and Phantom Road. Jeff Lemire continuing to do what Jeff Lemire does, which is make good comics. 8 Billion Genies, a good ending, but the way that the ending was presented is kind of puzzling. All Against All, one of the best endings I've read in a comic book in a while. Then we got Turtles, Usagi. Come on, y'all. Stan Sakai doing Turtles and Usagi. Read it. Then we got Wildcats. I wish it wasn't so connected to the DC Universe. Danger Street was a little bit dull, but pulled it together at the end. Batman Incorporated has low-key become one of DC's best books. Superman Lost tightened some stuff up from the first issue, but overall it still has a little bit of tonal clash. Then we got Nightmare Country, The Glass House. If you like the first one, you're going to love this one. Fantastic Four was a little wonky. Moon Knight was all right, but it wasn't the best one. Miles Morales Spider-Man. Straight up. Just a great comic book. Then we get Carnage. Loving what they're doing with Carnage right now. Captain America Cold War. I'm a little cold on that one. Anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy. I actually did like this first issue. I thought that was pretty well done. But the pick of the week goes to Dan Waters and company for The Seasons Have Teeth. Great concept, great character work, amazing artwork, and a perfectly executed and rendered first issue. Anyway, that's what I read. That's what I thought. That's what I'm digging. What are you reading? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you for everybody who checked this video out while it was being performed live. We'll catch you next time. I'm Rockin' Robbie Bills. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. Station, pop, pop. Boom. Thanks for watching.